You are looking live.
Here comes the play. Goodman at the free throw line. Jumper.
He broke his ankles. He is Houdini.
Mickey Mantle don't care about you, so why should you care about him? Nobody cares.
That's not a good call. No.
You don't like that call.
I don't like that call.
Woo, 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 woo. Not so fast.
We've got some March Madness Sweet 16 action coming up tomorrow. I did find the tip-off times for those games, as I promised. Arkansas and Gonzaga will tip off at 7:09 p.m. Eastern Time. Michigan-Villanova will tip off at about 7:30. Texas Tech Duke will tip off at about 9:40. And then Houston and Arizona will tip off at about 10 o'clock. And those are such weird tip-off times because it says Arkansas Gonzaga 7:09, Michigan Villanova 7:29, Texas Tech Duke's 9:39, and then Houston Arizona 9:59. Why not just round it up one more minute, right? What does one more minute do? 7:10, 7:30, 9:40, and 10 o'clock. Nice even numbers, right? I don't get 9:39. So such a weird time. I don't know what that's all about. Probably TV, something to do with TV or who knows. Just kind of weird. Just noticed that just now. But mentioned before the break, we will be getting to the Eastern Regional Bracket this segment. We've got, a lot of upsets. Actually, not some, a lot. Many upsets. Upsets aplenty, in fact, in the first two rounds of the Eastern Regional Bracket. North Carolina, we'll start there. Not an upset when they smoked Marquette. I think a lot of people probably thought that they were going to, that Marquette was going to keep it a little more competitive with North Carolina, and then North Carolina wasn't having any of that. In fact, North Carolina just absolutely torched Marquette in that first round. And after that first round, I had already thought that North Carolina had a pretty decent chance of beating Baylor anyway. But after they just absolutely smoked Marquette, I thought, oh no, North Carolina is definitely going to beat Baylor in the second round. And that's exactly what they did. They had a 25-point lead at one point against Baylor, nearly blew it. The Baylor Bears clawed all the way back to tie the game, send it to overtime, but Carolina would not go away. They would not let Baylor have their way, and Carolina comes out on top in overtime. So, sure, it's great to see that Carolina as an 8 seed goes to the Sweet 16, right? But it is really good to see, from a Carolina standpoint, I'm saying, really good to see this because this is Hubert Davis's first year as the head coach of the Tar Heels, right? Roy Williams last year, he retired. Hubert Davis steps in, and immediate success. Hubert Davis comes in, Sweet 16 in his first year. He is certainly setting the bar high, and a lot of people thought, Roy Williams is retiring. Carolina will be down and out for a few years. It's going to take a few years for them to get back to, the level of relevance that they were, under the Roy Williams era. And, sure, they had some ups and downs this season. They had their struggles for sure. They left a lot of people and a lot of experts questioning them going into the tournament because, North Carolina had proven that, hey, they can beat the teams that they should beat, but as soon as they step on the court with a team, with a top-tier team, they struggle. They really struggle. And a lot of people were questioning that going into the Baylor game. They were saying, well, this is Carolina, right? They hadn't really been able to step up against these top-tier teams, but Carolina goes out and gets the job done. So this leaves me to believe that North Carolina fans have nothing to worry about. Carolina will be a force to be reckoned with for years to come. The Hubert Davis era is off to a great start. I see no reason to believe that things will go poorly. I don't see this being a one-year wonder by any means because the flashes were there all season, right? This wasn't like they beat Baylor and everybody was like, oh my goodness, how in the world did that happen? Carolina was so bad, they shouldn't have even been on the same court as Baylor. That wasn't the message around Carolina at all. It was, hey, we know they have talent. We know that, Brady Manick and Leaky Black and Caleb Love and Armando Bacot, we know that they're good. We know that they're talented. But can they pull it all together against a top-tier team in Baylor? And, well, they went out and answered that question rather convincingly, I might add. And, I'm not saying that they're not going to, I'm not saying they're going to beat UCLA, but that I could see them giving UCLA a real handful coming up. That game will be on Friday. But, UCLA, just because you beat Baylor doesn't mean you're going to beat UCLA. I understand that for sure. UCLA, a very tough team, right? And UCLA is kind of lucky to be in this Sweet 16 right now. UCLA escapes with a narrow victory against Akron in the first round. But as I mentioned, they kind of took a step back. They, collected themselves. They just, figured things out a little bit. They got their acts together, and then they took care of business against St. Mary's in the second round. And very similar to North Carolina, UCLA has been striving for consistency all season long, and it hasn't been there. It has not been there whatsoever. And that's been evident in the first two games of this year's tournament. As I mentioned, they barely escape against Akron, and then they, looked amazing against. They looked amazing against St. Mary's. Couldn't think of the name for a minute. Even though it was right in front of my face. So I think for UCLA, I think you have to take this one game at a time. It has to be very much like the Final Four run they had a season ago. They took it one game at a time. They were not overlooking anybody, and I think they kind of got caught up in that this year, where they got into the 4 seed. They had a lot of the same pieces that they had last year, and it was okay. Get past Akron, get past St. Mary's, get to the Sweet 16. Worry about taking care of, worry about playing whoever we got to play there. And they kind of wanted to, I felt like they were overlooking Akron in that first game, and they let Akron into the game a little bit there. They let Akron, feel like they could win that game, I should say. And I think that's what they have to be careful of here. They cannot overlook Carolina, because as soon as you let North Carolina get any momentum whatsoever, Carolina they feed off that. That's when they get going. That's when they start feeling it. Brady Manick will hit a few shots. Caleb Love and Leaky Black will get it going. Armando Bacot starts to take over down low in the paint, and then it gets dangerous. I think Tiger Campbell is for sure. I know Tiger Campbell is going to have to watch the turnovers. If Tiger Campbell turns the ball over as much as he did in, what game was it? I feel like there's a good amount of turnovers in one of the games. Then Carolina is definitely going to, that gives them a better chance of winning the game, obviously. So that's something that UCLA has to be careful of. Johnny Juzang and Jaime Jaque has got to hit their shots as well. You have to get Johnny Juzang going early. That is crucial. That is a must. Because if you don't do that, that's the issue with UCLA. That is where their consistency issues stem from, is that when you don't get the star players going, sure, they have strong bench players, but Johnny Juzang does a large part of the heavy lifting for the Bruins. So you can't overlook North Carolina, because that's very easy to do so, right? Look at this bracket for a minute. You got Carolina, UCLA in the top half, and then you got Purdue and St. Peter's in the bottom half. And if I'm UCLA, I'm saying, okay, get past Carolina. Who knows what happens between Purdue and St. Peter's, right? Purdue, or even if Purdue wins, you might be saying, all right, that we just gotta get ready for Purdue, right? Nope. You have to sit down. You have to take your medicine here and take this one game at a time. You can't worry about the Purdue game before you beat North Carolina. And I think that is that's kind of what happened in that first round. They were worrying about St. Mary's before they even beat Akron. Can't let that happen again. And speaking of Purdue, this has been the year that Purdue has finally lived up to expectations. I know that the Big Ten has not lived up to expectations again. We'll get to that a little bit later on tonight. But Purdue, one of the kind of the golden child of the Big Ten, right? Everybody else has been real big disappointment here in the tournament, and yet the Big Ten is saying, wow, look at Purdue. Hey, look at Purdue and Michigan, right? That kind of their saving grace, if you will, is Purdue. They took care of Yale, very similar to how Texas Tech beat Montana State, never really gave them a chance. And then they did what they had to do to beat Texas. Texas was in it. Texas wanted, was vying for an upset there. Purdue shut them down and said, nope, no sir, we're not having any of that. But as I mentioned with UCLA, Purdue has the biggest mistake Purdue can make right now is overlook St. Peter's, because we'll get to St. Peter's in a little bit, but you cannot overlook St. Peter's and say, hey, gotta get ready. We gotta get ready for UCLA, and if we beat UCLA, we can make it to the Final Four. You gotta beat St. Peter's first. As mentioned with UCLA, can't worry about Purdue until you beat Carolina. Same thing here. Can't worry about UCLA until you beat St. Peter's. And I think that's, again, a very similar theme to how St. Peter's won their first 2 games. And before we get to St. Peter's, I got to say, it is looking really good for Purdue to make it to the Elite Eight. Got to get past St. Peter's first. And I think that's what happened with St. Peter's. They played Kentucky and Murray State. Kentucky, obviously, you gotta understand that Kentucky was probably not coming into the game saying, "Oh, gotta be careful of St. Peter's," right? They're tough. Gotta really do our homework here. Most likely Kentucky overlooked St. Peter's, and they said this. They said they were probably looking at the bracket just like I was last week, and they said, "Hey, get to the second round, play Murray State or San Francisco. That's very doable. Get into the Sweet 16." Maybe you get an upset. Maybe you won't have to play Purdue. If you do play Purdue, that's going to be a tough game. But, maybe you like your chances there. Elite Eight, Baylor, UCLA, feel like maybe you can do that. And then all of a sudden you're in the Final Four. Because a lot of people had Kentucky in the Final Four, in their bracket. They overlooked St. Peter's, and that was their first big mistake. And you can probably say the same thing about Murray State as well. They were probably tired after that overtime game. That really fast-paced overtime game between them and San Francisco in round 1. They probably said, all right, St. Peter's, no way they can beat us. No way they can win 2 games in the tournament. We got this. And St. Peter's actually went out and just pretty much controlled Murray State the whole way. And never looked back. However, St. Peter's has got to be careful of this. As the team that everybody's going to be watching this weekend, they'll be playing Purdue on Friday. No doubt in my mind that anybody who is watching the NCAA tournament this weekend will have their eye on St. Peter's, right? Everybody's going to be watching them. And they cannot let that excitement get to their head. They cannot feel pressure, right? They cannot feel like, oh my God, we got to win. We have to live up to these expectations. Because that is when you start to make mistakes. You start to fall apart. And, again, can't let it get to you. Can't let the big stage get to you. And, you have to really come into this game the same way you came into the Kentucky game, right? Play with nothing. You have nothing to lose. And, you come to that game, you're saying, hey, well, we're supposed to lose, right? We're not going to win. We're not supposed to win. We're supposed to lose. And then you play well. You play a good first half. You say, hey, we're hanging around. Just keep doing that, right? Just stick to... everybody do their assignment, and let's just go play another second half. Let's see what we can do. And then all of a sudden you win the game. You go into round 2, do the same thing. You say, all right, we won that first game. Again, we're supposed to lose. No pressure. Now that you made it to the Sweet 16, everybody's watching you now. If people shrugged you off their shoulders in round 2, said, oh, they beat Kentucky, there's no way they're beating Murray State. Well, they did it. Now everybody's watching. There's nobody that's saying, oh, St. Peter's, don't worry about it. Nothing, right? Everybody's going to be watching them. People are going to be rooting for them. They want to see a 15 seed make it to the Elite Eight. There's only been 3 other 15 seeds to make it to the Sweet 16. Florida Gulf Coast back in 2013 or 14 it was. And then, of course, Oral Roberts last year. Purdue is a tough task, though. I don't want to be the Debbie Downer here, but it's going to be tough to beat Purdue, right? They've got an absolute monster in Zach Edey. I mean, that guy's like 7'4", just a mountain of a man. Trevion Williams, a bench player, but just as good as Zach Edey. I mean, you don't really lose anything there. And then Jordan Ivey is just, talk about ice water in the veins. Jordan Ivey fits the bill there. So, there's no way you're going to stop those 3 players. But if you can contain them, maybe get one of them into foul trouble, then I might change my tonality on St. Peter's a little bit. Maybe I think, okay, maybe they can do this. But as of right now, again, hate to be the Debbie Downer, but I think it's going to be a very tall task. And I mean, I would have said it going into the Kentucky game. If you asked me, I would have said, hey, it's going to be tough, right? There's no way. Same thing here. So at this point, I don't know. Anything can happen, but I really think that it's going to be very difficult. And I don't see St. Peter's beating Purdue on Friday, but I'll be rooting for them because it'll be exciting to see a 15 seed get to the Elite Eight. But again, it's going to be tough. I don't see it happening, but we'll wait and see. We'll see that game on Friday.